Okay, welcome back to the TCI studio. We're going to do this week's RecruitCast. Recruiting guru Gavin Oliver here with me today in the TCI studio. Gavin and I went on a long trip last week. Thursday we drove up near Bresee's town, and then Friday went to lunch at my favorite spot in his town, the Hornet's Nest Grill.
Yep.
We got some sweatshirts and different paraphernalia from there. Then we went Friday night and watched Brian Bresee and Ryan Linthicum play. So this RecruitCast, we're going to talk about that trip, seeing those guys, just some background on those guys. Gavin, one thing we didn't know when we got up there, we didn't realize how big a game it was.
Yeah, that's true. They made us. They restricted us to, usually when we're able to cover a high school game, we can go anywhere on the sidelines. But they restricted us this time to just the home sideline, and we couldn't even stand in the end zones to watch, to try to get better angles on the touchdown plays because it was such a big game. And last year they had some issues. I'll let you go more.
Yeah, it wasn't last year. It was like last time they had played.
Last time the two teams,
which was like I think 5 years ago. They had some issues, but Quincy Orchard, the team they played, I think had won 4 straight state championships.
Yeah.
They were a classification ahead of where Damascus was last year. This year Damascus moves up a level, so they're in the same level this year. And of course Damascus won the state title last year. So one of the guys that works at Damascus that I had run into when I went up there to cover the announcement was talking to him before the game, and he said this is like Alabama and Clemson and Maryland.
Yeah, and Quincy Orchard had 10 D1 prospects, and Damascus wasn't quite as loaded, but of course they had the 2 big guns, Ryan Linthicum and Brian Bresee, we'll get into. But Clemson and Alabama, as he mentioned, we were expecting a good game, but we weren't quite sure if Damascus would be able to hang with them for 4 quarters because of the lack of depth as compared to Quincy Orchard with all the D1 prospects they had. But they really hung tough until the 4th quarter, just as we expected, eventually ran out of gas. But it was a great game, and I was really impressed by the way that Brian and Ryan both played on both sides of the ball and really their condition, the level of conditioning it took for them to be able to sustain a good level of performance on both sides of the ball for that long.
I mean, Bresee played every snap, offensive line, or I guess he played some tight end, tackle on the offensive line, played on the outside pretty much the whole day on the defensive side. They brought Ryan in some on defensive line as well when they get into critical situations. So they were worn out.
I was tired just watching
going at it. But the good news was we got to see Ryan against some big-time competition. When he was blocking, he was going against the DN that just picked up a Florida offer and some other big school. I can't remember the other big school. So they were going against some, top quality guys on the other side. This wasn't one of those games like you'd seen on some of those other videos where Ryan's out there throwing around all these small players. He was going against some, bigger prospects.
Yeah.
Let's start off talking about Brian. Obviously, a lot of people saying, oh, he's going to move inside. We've seen him now. I saw him out in Dallas at the opening finals. We saw him Friday night. I think it's going to be hard to move him inside. I think he's kind of like Christian where he can play inside or outside, but he is just so talented, so quick, such good technique. All those moves he's got on the outside. I wonder, I put this in the insider report this week, I'm not going to be surprised if he plays more on the outside than he does the inside.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I agree 100% with that. He's 6'5", 295 or so, 295, 300 around there. He's fully capable of being very successful whether he plays on the interior defensive line or on the outside at Clemson. He's going to have success no matter where they put him, but it just seems very advantageous for the Tigers to keep him out and keep him on the outside because, as you mentioned, his combination of size, quickness, athleticism, just his technique and the moves he's able to make. I mean, he can swim move and just dart past an offensive tackle and get to the backfield, no problem. It was quite amazing to see how quick he is for his size, and he's just a special talent. He reaffirmed everything we had heard about him, and we've seen him a couple times before, but he just even more confirmed that he's rated the #1 overall prospect in the country. There's legitimate reason for that. It's not like some guys who we see that we walk away saying, I don't know. Maybe they're not quite as highly touted as, maybe they're not quite as good as they're touted to be, but Bresee certainly lived up to the billing.
Yeah, whether he plays inside, outside, both, he's going to make an impact next season. I mean, he's going to be a huge addition that's going to come in, make a big benefit right away for that defensive line.
And he's coming in right. His dad told us that he's coming in right where Clemson wants him to be, about 6'5" or about 295 pounds, 300. He's right where they want him to be weight-wise, which is good to hear.
Yeah, so, I mean, he's just, and again, you know, the weight makes you think he's going to play inside, but he's just so good on the outside.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how they
Yeah.
work that out. And, you know, if Clemson's doing the 3-3-5, then, you know, he fits well in that model because you're playing kind of inside and outside at different times. My prediction is we'll see next year Clemson go back to more of the four-man front most of the time with the talent they're going to have on the line there. But, you know, one of the things we also noticed, Gavin, was obviously on the football field, phenomenal player. But, you know, tough loss. They had a chance to win that game. They lost it late. Like Gavin said, in the fourth quarter, they kind of ran out of gas.
Yeah.
The other team jumped on them for a couple scores there late. But just the leader and the person he was, you know, he was very nice to us after the game, but even better, you know, he stood up and he talked to the team after the loss and was giving the team the speech you would want somebody to give them about, hey, we got to go, you know, just forget this one, move on, all the right things you want to hear from a leader.
Yeah, you always, after each game, win or loss, you hear the coach talk to the players. You know, we're accustomed to seeing that. It's the norm. But to see an actual, you know, a senior like that get up and kind of be the coach in a way, talk to a team after a tough loss like that was very impressive. And just the way he handled himself in his post-game interview with us after the game, I mean, a pure class act. Moments removed from a really tough loss in the biggest game that they're going to play all year. It was incredible. I mean, he's a Clemson guy through and through. He answered our questions and was very gracious to do the interview with us. And his coach told us that his coach couldn't praise him enough about how good of a leader he is, how good he is off the field with kids. A big guy like that, a big tough football player, who's on the field, you see him just knocking people's heads off. But off the field, he's a nice, good kid who likes to be around, who others love to be around.
Mm-hmm. Great kid. One of the guys that worked at school told me, he said, man, he had a hard time going to class today. He was so fired up for that game, preparing for that, knew it was going to be a huge game that night. So Gavin and I could not have picked a better game to go watch him play. Also got to see Linthicum, played center. Very, very, very good prospect as well. Our first chance to get to see him really in live action, and I was very impressed with what we saw from him.
Yeah, so was I. He's ranked as the nation's #1 center in the country. He's a big dude too. I mean, he's stout. He's not quite as big as Bresee, but he's very stout, and he's got a very perfect build for a center, I would say. I mean, he's a guy that's got a chance to, like Bresee, come in and contribute right away. I was very impressed as well with him.
Well, a lot of times you see guys coming into like Clemson and other colleges, D1 level, trying to convert to center after they played a different position in high school. He's a center. He's playing center now.
Yeah.
Got the snaps down. You know, he's excelling at that. He's making the line calls. He's being the leader there on the offensive line. And we saw him just kind of throwing guys around different plays as well. So he would be a great, great, great addition. Gavin, I know you talked to him after the game a little bit. You know, we feel like Clemson's in very good shape. Still feel like it's probably Clemson, Michigan.
Yep, absolutely. Clemson and Michigan are the two teams I think are the teams to be. He's also got Virginia Tech in his top 3, but I think they're more on the outside looking in for sure. He told us that doesn't have a concrete timetable for his decision, nothing set in stone. But he's looking to make his decision sometime after this junior season. He's developed a great relationship with Coach Caldwell at Clemson. He'll be back on campus this weekend.
For
both the Charlotte game. Both of those guys will be back on campus, and so that's another chance for him to continue building that relationship with Coach Caldwell, which is already strong going in. And like I said, he would have an opportunity to come in and contribute right away with Clemson. So that's something I'm thinking he's going to look at. And the Tigers are definitely in a good spot with him. And Bresee, we asked him about, hey, you think Ryan will come join you? They're best friends, and you think Ryan will come join you at Clemson? He didn't hesitate. Brian says yes. We're gonna get him.
Yeah. So that would be, offensive line class for 2020 was outstanding, and now it looks like Clemson is positioned with Linthicum and several other prospects. We feel really good about to put back-to-back really strong offensive line classes together, which is huge. And then, of course, we all know the defensive line class led by Bresee that they're putting together in 2020. And, we've got guys like Page and some others for 2021. And we got Big Bear sitting out there in 2022 that we feel real good about. So, you know,
It always starts in the trenches.
you win championships up front, and Clemson is really setting up some great classes back to back to back.
I agree. It's exciting. That's if you're going to recruit, you want to recruit up front on both sides of the ball in the line of scrimmage, and that's the skill positions get a lot of the attention. They make the flashy plays, but games are won and lost up front, and Clemson knows that too, obviously, and they're taking care of business on the recruiting trail.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the RecruitCast. Hopefully you enjoyed our coverage. Made that long little curve to the right on the way up to Syracuse, but wanted to go see Bresee in action. We've got some other great things planned for you over the next couple of months with our Tour of Champions, and stay tuned to TCI for the most complete coverage of Clemson football and recruiting.